Welcome back to Unapologetically Woman. Community Action is celebrating phenomenal women all across Kentucky who make no apologies for their perspectives or the impacts that they're making in the community. Today, for our 100th show, we're celebrating our first and only Honorary Unapologetically Woman, my mom, Isabel Sylvie Delphin Arceneaux, also affectionately known as Mama Belle to most. From sharecroppers to property owners to the mother of engineers, a lieutenant colonel, medical professionals, CEOs, electricians, business owners, lawyers, to grandchildren who are doctors, lawyers, nurses, engineers, men in the military, and everything in between. She would have called it us crawling out of the ashes. I'm Sharon Price, and I'm the Executive Director for Community Action Council here in Lexington, Kentucky. Our promise is to help people help themselves and each other and to strengthen the community for everybody. I am the first woman and first woman of color to lead this organization. We have over 500 staff and over $800 million a year budget, but I'm the first. I've thought to myself before that growing up, I would never have thought that something like this career, would have been in the cards for me. But as I began reflecting for this show, I was reminded that I had been preparing, I'd been in training, and I'd been positioned for this moment in time over my entire life. Later in the show, I'm going to be joined by my wonderful daughter, Braxton Price, to help tell my mom's story. Mom's story starts in a small town in central Louisiana located in Natchitoches Parish, in a small community lovingly referred to as Cane River. Cane River is also the name of the lake that shapes the countryside's landscape. My mom was one of 10 siblings. She grew up in a sharecropper's family. In the 1930s and 40s, this meant that you and everybody in your family was working hard to live a decent yet humble life. Nothing came easy at that time, absolutely nothing. An education for sure did not come easy, nor did health care or belonging. Mom had appendicitis after the 3rd grade. Her recovery caused her to miss most of the next school year. When she had recovered enough to return to school, my grandfather didn't allow her to go back to school because she was looked at as being too old for the class that she would go in. As a result, she was appointed to work alongside my grandmother in midwifing duties. That means that she took care of other women and their children for many years. This is the way that it was then. Later on, when Mom was about 13 years old, she moved to Alexandria, a nearby city, to work. And a few years later, when Mom was 16 years old, she and my dad married, lived in a small farm in Louisiana, and had 12 children. I'm the baby of that bunch. We grew up humbly, and when I say humble, I mean poor. We didn't have anything called money. The only thing I knew about money growing up was that we didn't have any. My folks earned about $600 a year from their crops. But my mom did not allow our lives to be defined by all of the things that we did not have. It was defined by what we did have: God, family, and each other. Mom counted her riches in terms of blessings, helping and caring for others, in terms of love, and she loved no one more than she loved her 12 children. But she loved everybody, figuratively and literally. There was always room at her table for one more. If you were family, a close or distant relative or not, whether you met the societal hierarchy or not, regardless of whether you owned property or you didn't, regardless of your skin complexion, regardless of your family's generational mishaps or rumors or gossips or past indiscretions, and regardless of how it may have looked to other people at that time. Life on the farm in the big house was filled with love. It was filled with triumphs and also trials and tribulations, just like the complexities of any other family. We lived in a multi-generational home. We raised and grew our own food. We had clothes because we normally received them from our cousins up north. We didn't have much, really. But yet, growing up, I never remember wanting for anything. The way that Mom raised us was to believe that we were fortunate and to count our blessings because there were some families who had far less than us. And if I'm being totally honest, I really didn't know that we were poor until I went to college. I thought everybody lived like me. My mom preached that we could be absolutely anything that we wanted to be. She would always say, set your goals high, so if you don't reach them, you won't fall so low. She set high expectations and standards for us, and she ensured that we met them. 2 things. You don't know what you don't know, and you can't be what you can't see, and nobody gets anywhere by themselves. Here are some things that I learned from her, because as a kid, I was watching her. Her life and her family life was surrounded by St. Augustine Catholic Church and the Creole community. She insisted that everybody in her house go to church on Sunday mornings. Every day, the family ate together. Every day. You know that saying that people will never forget the way that you made them feel? Well, when Mom was beginning to reach the end of her journey, there was a young man who came to visit her. He had to wait about 2 hours, but he stayed steadfast waiting. This was one of the fellows that she used to work with in the special education program at the school. She had made a birthday cake for him years ago when he was in school and brought it to him because he would not have had one. That's the kind of person that she was. She was also a fighter. She did not have any problem standing up to the school board. She may have been shaking in her shoes, but to fight for a better education, not just for her children, but for everybody in that community, was something that she took to heart. Education meant everything to her because she was committed to us, her family, crawling out of the ashes. She was adamant about leading by example. She believed in letting her children always catch her in the act of being excellent. You know, it wasn't until 1972 that she finished high school. I was just 4 years old. She could not stand the idea of being referred to as illiterate. And in her day and age, when she went back to school, it wasn't the same as going to get a GED in classes like we know it today. She actually had to sit in the same classrooms as some of her own children. Heck, my older brother even had to tutor her in algebra to help her keep up in math class. And then later on, when she was about 64 years young, she decided to start taking college courses. She said that she wanted to awaken her mind, but she got a rude awakening. At that point, she wasn't interested in getting a degree. She wanted to prove to herself that if she wanted to go back to college, that she could. And as I think of it now, I know that I was being positioned to be right here where I am at this very moment. My mom didn't have a college education. In fact, I'm considered a first-generation college student. But as a kid, I watched the example that was set by my mom. My mom finished high school when I was 4 and she was 46 years old. And really, she taught us that in life there are always seasons. And some of those seasons, the wind is going to be at your back and the sun is going to shine warmly on your face. But there are also going to be other seasons when the crops don't make as planned, when everything appears to go wrong, when your husband will die of colon cancer and leave you with 6 young children at home to raise. And then you'll remarry along the way when the grieving was not over yet. Some of those seasons are damn tough. And sometimes I ask myself, is it all worth it? Or sometimes I doubt myself and my capabilities. We all have those days. But when I have those days, and I know that they're going to come, I wear my mom's 1972 class ring every single day. It reminds me to keep going. It reminds me to stop feeling sorry for myself. It reminds me of who I am and the stock that I came from. And it gives me the strength and the courage to move through the hard times. But what she would have been most proud of is crawling out of the ashes. She would probably say that she wasn't bragging, but she was proud that all 12 of her children and her grandchildren have become things that were once relatively off limits and made something out of themselves. After her children became successful, she was able to put the college books down and travel all over the world. She really didn't have anything to prove by going back to college, not to us anyway. She had already given us everything that she had. And I think that everything that I am today is because of her. I usually ask unapologetically women at the end of the show what kind of advice that they would like to give young girls or women or anyone that's watching and looking up to them. In my mom's words, she would say, if I had advice to give, I would tell you, keep God and family close. Pray every day. Everybody has value. Treat everyone with respect. Be scared if you must, but stand up for what's right anyway. Give your children rules. Everybody must learn to live by rules. She would say, life is not fair. That's right, life is not fair. Find another route to get to where you want to be. She would also say, sometimes you have to fight with your friends if necessary for the common good. Stop with the participation trophies. If you didn't win, you don't get the trophy. Stop making kids think that they're always winners. And vote. Stop letting people make decisions without you. Be the very best at whatever you're doing. If you want to be a ditch digger, that's fine, but be the best ditch digger around. Speak to your children in a way that moves their spirits and inspires them to want to become more than they think that they can be. Shut your mouth and listen to somebody else. You might learn something. Be a man of your word. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Be forgiving. The burden is too heavy to carry. And don't ever buy into believing that there's any place that you don't belong. You belong anywhere that you want to be. Work for it. And she would tell us, see something in somebody else today. Look for promise and potential.
I'd rather have fun right out here in this backyard with my family than anywhere else I could go. Now that's how I feel about family.
Today we're celebrating my mom, Isabel Sylvie Delphin Arceneaux, as an honorary unapologetically woman. And today I have a special guest, my daughter, Braxton Price, who's going to help tell her story. I'm glad to have you, Braxton.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so you were telling me a story about Mama Belle that you love. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it was at the big house. This is back when everybody would come all together. We would have like the uncles, our cousins, aunts, friends, everybody would be there. And I remember Mama Belle was outside and she was mowing the lawn. And I was like, why are you mowing the lawn? I was like, all these men around here, like, let them mow the lawn. And she was like, why would I ask them to mow the lawn if I can just do it myself?
Boom, boom, boom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay. I was like, okay, Mama Belle, I understand. But what I got from that was the fact that you don't really have to rely on everybody else to do like small mundane things for her. I love that Mama Belle was still up and out and like willing to mow the lawn, and because she was in her 80s at this point, so I was like just like out there like willing to mow the lawn. And it wasn't one of those like you ride and just like kind of drive it. It was like, oh, I'm pushing this.
Yes.
And Mama, in like the big house there's a lot. It's a lot of land.
It's on a farm.
So yeah, it's on a farm. It's not small at all. So for like this 80-year-old woman, for me to see her just like mowing the lawn, and you're just like, wow.
Well, but not just that, Braxton. We always caught her doing things when she got up in age that she shouldn't do. Like, she was on a ladder, and she was cleaning cobwebs on a ladder. We're like, what are you doing?
Not
she
even
was
worried
like,
about if she falls back.
No, she didn't care. And she didn't need to do that because someone else would have done that. Mm-hmm. But that's just kind of who she was.
Mm-hmm. And there's like a ton of stories with her like that. What is it? There's another one. This is kind of a funny one. So we were all eating, and I go and I grab some cereal out of the pantry, and you know, like there's a ton of food in there all the time. And so I go and I grab the cereal and I'm pouring it out and I'm eating it, and Mama Belle's sitting there with me. I said, Mama Belle, I think the cereal's bad. And she was like, oh, nothing ever goes bad. You're good. I said, now, I said, Mama Belle, I think this might be bad. I think this is the bad. I think this is the bad.
Was it stale?
Yeah. It was like the little circular cereal ones that hurt like the roof of your mouth. And so like for those to be stale on top of their, oh my goodness. But she was like, no, just keep eating it.
No, food is always good. Mm-hmm. It's always good. Mm-hmm. Well, my favorite story and thing about her that stays with me, I think, is that she was a badass. And she walked, I think I wear heels because she loved to wear heels. She would just prance around and, go and do what she needed to do. But she always had on some sort of kind of sexy, flirty, heel. And she was even trying to do it, up in her 80s until the doctor said, slow your roll, ma'am.
You said that, and like the first thing that popped into mind was that picture. I don't know if it's the one of her, and she's in her white dress and her white hat, and she has like the little veil kind of thing going down, and she has like her little white shoes, and that's what I thought about.
Oh, she thought she was something.
Oh, she was.
I know she was because, and every time I wear high heels and, it just makes me think about her because it was kind of like her personality. She had, I don't know if it's a personality, if it's her heart, but her standards were so high and her heart was so big that people, when you go down to the big house, you don't know if somebody's your cousin or they just been here so long that here they are.
That's why you just go and you just hug everybody. You just like, hey, everybody.
Everybody. You get a hug. You get a hug. I know that's one of the things that I like about it. I liked about our family, and honestly, I'm a little scared.
With Mama Belle being gone.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think there's anything to be scared about with that. I mean, she had so many people like show up for her and her funeral. She had like over 1,000 people because there was like over 100 in person and like almost 1,000 online. So I don't think that it's going to be like a problem, everybody coming together, because the big house is where everybody will remember her. So I don't see everybody leaving the big house.
Well, thank you for making me feel better. It's hard. It's hard. When I'm thinking about the tears that are flowing, it's not sad tears. I guess it is, but it's tears when you think about somebody that you love so much that they're not going to be here with you anymore. And it's hard. It's hard to not pick up the phone and not, not to be able to hear her voice on the other end, saying, you haven't called me in, the last 2 months. Well, I talked to you yesterday, and knowing that she is the beginning and the end of everything in our family. She has been the rock that has kept our family solid, the whole time. And it makes me nervous, to know what that's going to be like. And I'm a little bit scared about it. And I don't ever get sad because I have tears, because the tears just remind me of how much she meant to me and how important she was, not just to me, but to all of us. You see when you go home people that you think are your family because they came and she allowed them to come in and they never left. Think about all those people. Is he my cousin? No, he's not your cousin. He's just been in the family for 40 years.
No, that's how every conversation goes. It's like, oh, who's he? Is he my cousin? It's like, oh, I couldn't even tell you.
One of the things that my brother FJ told me when we were at home, and usually, I'm like, what is he trying to say? Because he says so much, he just talks. And so FJ told me, he said, you don't have sisters. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And he was like, no, you have gladiators. You have gladiators that stepped up. They came in and took care of Mama, and made sure that every single thing that she wanted, that she was in, good hands the entire time. 2 of my sisters moved in with her to make sure that everything was good. And so we got a lot of gladiators in our family. So I have Rose, Glow, Joe, Phil, James, Linwood, Mark, Bernice, Julie, Steph, FJ, and of course, me. I'll always be their baby. Thank you guys for continuing to watch Unapologetically Woman. This is the last show of the season. We hope that you've met and encountered a lot of people that can help you get where you want to go. I'll talk to you soon. Mom was a steel magnolia, tough, gritty. could muster her load, and would carry her cross with dignity until the very end. She may have been a sharecropper's daughter, but in our eyes, she was our queen.